With respect to COVID-19 crisis, as in terms of the challenges that African migrants are facing, there are quite a number, but I will quickly speak to a few that looks pretty obvious. There is the challenge of a loss of job. For quite a number of them, there was the possibility of a job renewal before the crisis, but immediately it started, quite a number of them are out of job. And they're not just out of job, they are stranded, they cannot go anywhere. Linked to the question of loss of job is loss of income. Quite a number of them have lost income, as it were, with the respect to COVID-19. And then it's also the challenge for those who are even working. Is also the challenge, particularly for domestic workers. The challenge for them is how to even effectively be able to practice or social distance measures or the other containment measures that are put in place. And then there is also the challenge of communication. For quite a number of them that are working, they've not been able to reach their family the way they will often be able to reach their family. And also, the thing with migrant workers is that they have social support network amongst themselves in the country. With this crisis, they can no longer meet to discuss and to share experience and to share their problems together. At worst, for those that are able to communicate, whose bosses or employer give the opportunity to, then all they can do is just talk on phone. Of course, there is also the challenge of migrants being stranded and not able to renew their papers, their work permits and whatever that ordinarily they ought to be able to do as a condition for residency. Of course, the good thing is that with COVID-19, government are not throwing people out. I'm not saying if your paper is expired, of course you should be thrown out. That we have not seen, as it were. But of course, what that also means for some workers is that they are not able to make financial transactions when they don't have such documents. And so these challenges are the ones that are huge on the part of these workers. And of course, there is the psychological challenge, the trauma of not being able to send money home to dependents. Quite a number of them that depend on them for livelihood. They are not able to send home money, and that is really causing big depression, psychological issue for quite a number of migrants on the continent that we have seen. What are the things that African trade unions have done to be able to support migrants that are affected with respect to COVID-19? Quite a number of measures. I will start with ITUC-Africa, for instance. ITUC-Africa on its own wrote a letter to all African governments, and in that letter demanded that African governments should treat this issue on the case of a crisis that is affecting humanity, not a crisis that is affecting national and non-nationals. In other words, the continent, the people should be, the different governments should deploy a war footing strategy to say this is an act of war, and to mobilize the entire citizenry and people, including migrant workers, to be able to contain this pandemic. The ITUC-Africa equally wrote to the African Union, where we demand for the African Union to see how Africa can have a more coordinated approach to dealing effectively with COVID-19. The trade unions, at the trade union level, we have seen quite a number of our unions coming out strongly with advocacy statement issues to say this is a crisis that affects everyone, and so no one should be discriminated against, including migrant workers, particularly with respect to palliatives. When palliatives are being given on the strength of the lockdown, nobody should be excluded. Migrants should not be excluded. But more importantly, across the continent of Africa, and we are proud of our affiliates, from Tunisia to Morocco, to Senegal, to instances in Cote d'Ivoire, in Benin, in Burkina Faso. We see where trade unions on their own even mobilize COVID-19 resources, food, basic food items to migrant camps, clothes to migrant camp to give to them, to be able to cope and to also provide food for them, so that they are well taken care of as a result of the crisis and their inability to work. So that gives us a good good feeling, a sense of pride to say, indeed, when the situation really gets tough, working class solidarity will always come to the fore. And we have seen unions rising to the fore in that extent, including, of course, not limited to also taking non-pharmaceutical materials to migrant camps, migrant community, to distribute and to show them how to wash their hands, how to do the basic hygiene, sanitation issues. So in a number of ways, our unions have risen to that challenge, including now that we're having unions even developing policies, and these policies they are developing, they have a adequate provision for protection of migrant workers. These policies are intended for engagement with their different governments. What are the demands of African trade unions to employers and government? Our demands are pretty simple. The first demand is let's genuinely work together to defeat the pandemic. And so workers have volunteered themselves and their platform to collaborate with government to defeating the platform. Workers, all the measures, the public health measures that the government have rolled out, the workers have shown example by respecting them and by disseminating them to their members across board. We are demanding that the demand has also been that it should not be an excuse. COVID-19 should not be an excuse to stop paying salaries, and that is where across the continent we applaud the measures governments have taken to secure income for workers, and by providing economic and fiscal relief to businesses so that they do not go under. They are able to continue to pay all workers, including, of course, migrant workers. We are demanding from our government and employers the need for us to have a joint strategy. In other words, a very good collaborative strategy of dealing with COVID-19. Already, we have seen instances where in Nigeria, the two national labor centers, together with the employer group, are working to reach a bipartite non-state actor initiative to addressing the challenge of COVID-19. We are also making the demand that public health, we need to look at public health issues again. The question of how we effectively calibrate our public health to be able to deal with issues of infection and infectious diseases is something that we are really strongly demanding. And of course, in that demand is the need for a new social contract, which means more than ever before there would be the need for social protection provisions in ways that can address challenges as this. In the ITUC journal, special newsletter we published, we focus particularly on the question of what African government need to do with respect to migrant workers. And we laid it bare that more than ever before, this is the time to look at labor migration governance issue in a more proactive, more broad whole of society approach so that everybody can come to the table and we can better protect migrants while we are still looking at how their labor, their contribution can impact positively on development. These are the demands that we're making. These are the ways we have tried to put the issue of labor, migration, and migrants on the front burner with respect to COVID-19. Thank you.